Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to another Aviation video. Today we'll be taking a look at the situation in Ukraine, as well as the situation in Russia and, well, over Europe that's dealing with this issue, and then across the world that's dealing with the issues of things like the fuel prices going up. So, I've recorded this video a few times and didn't upload it. I've got tons of screenshots and things I've just seen, so they may all not have been shown, but I'll try to put them as soon as I can on the screen, but let's get to it. So first of all, from the aviation standpoint, the Antonov 225, as you probably know, is gone. So that came through with some people alleging that had happened. Then there was kind of a backlash and it became trendy to deny it and denounce these conspiracy theories. And then a pilot from apparently Antonov that everyone believed was from Antonov but probably wasn't from Antonov said that no, it's in a perfect condition. Then it went up and people kind of said again, well, it's gone. Then that went down a bit, back up. And then the Antonov company released the actual evidence and footage of the plane being destroyed. So it is fully destroyed. But that's basically 99.999% confirmed. The most likely reason they did that, well, it's a Ukrainian thing. There's only one of them in the world, so it would look kind of good for them to do that. Will they rebuild it? Probably not soon in the future. Well, it was the biggest aircraft in the world and the only one of its type, so it can be quite necessary. But then again, now with production, the cost of prices have gone up for materials, for raw materials. The prices have gone up for things like petrol, so there's going to be less encouragement to make such an inefficient machine. Who knows? Maybe they could make it again, but make it a bit more efficient and just make it bigger or accommodating things more as they want it. You'd think Ukraine would want to kind of build it back up to show their strength, but at the moment that's really the least of the worries, and we can't really expect it anytime soon, especially with COVID coming, back up. I was going to say, yeah, going back up, but it's never really went down. But people have downplayed it and now they're having to live with the reality of it, so air travel may again be halted. So we probably won't see that anytime soon. Another thing with the aviation industry that's quite interesting is aircraft maintenance. What is happening to all those Ukrainian airlines and other planes that are grounded in Ukraine that aren't flying anywhere? Because as you know, if planes aren't flying, just like with COVID, then they're in a pretty poor condition after a while. And yes, normally they take them for test flights during the grounding process. But if the airspace is fully closed, they can't really take them for test flights, can they? So it's likely that when aviation does resume, if it ever does resume in Ukraine, well, or whatever name they may have given it, Russia or the Soviet Union or whatever, they're going to rename it if it keeps going further, which it probably will. That they're going to have a big aviation issue since all of the aircraft will be grounded. Then also it has gone on to all other aircraft in the world. Every single aircraft is dealing with high fuel costs, and there's also the diversion around Ukraine and Russia, and then of course, that's hiking prices and making things more expensive for airlines, which leads to less people traveling, which leads to less profits for the airline and less people flying as well. And then also, of course, you just have the heightened risk of war around Europe and people not wanting to fly. People who are planning to go in Europe, like in WA, the borders just open. We kind of were planning to go to Europe maybe at the end of the year, but with this, it doesn't seem like we want to be flying in or around Europe anywhere at the moment. A lot of people, I've seen this, especially in the aviation kind of group online, have been saying why, and there haven't really been full answers, so, well, we're going to look through it. This video is dedicated to this. So, the main reason, well, it appears as if, and this is one of the main reasons, is NATO, because Ukraine wanted to join NATO. If you don't live under a rock, you'll know that, and, well, NATO is all Western people, and Russia kind of wanted a buffer between them and NATO, but as people like Ben Shapiro have stated, well, they're basically surrounded by NATO now anyways, and by taking over Ukraine, they're closer with NATO. I do agree with that, but they could be taking into account that short-term loss of being closer to NATO, instead of blocking, for the long-term goal of having Ukraine not enter NATO. Because if they were going to enter NATO, they'd be surrounded by NATO, so they've invaded it, they're going to be around NATO short-term, everyone's too weak to do anything, and they probably shouldn't do anything, and if they can get NATO out of Ukraine, they're not going to be surrounded by NATO in the long term. And then again, the countries they're surrounded by are pretty small and smaller and not so engaged, and they kind of have more pro-Russian tendencies than Ukraine, and they're less allied with the West. But many people have been right. People are saying it's like heartless and things to say that they should stay out of NATO. But I'm not exactly sure on my position, but that is kind of a good thing. They could stay out of NATO, they can be neutral. We understand Russia, because it's not essentially good guy versus bad guy, it's just like one power versus the other. Obviously, the West is generally better than Russia, but then again, yeah, the West aren't saints, and Russia isn't always bad. But yeah, people like Ben Shapiro and Nigel Farage especially have said stay out of NATO. You could have avoided this whole entire thing, and it would have been better. And also, well done to Nigel Farage. He was wrong on one aspect of Russia. I believe it was, he said he didn't think they would invade, and he actually apologised. Yeah, a politician who apologised. That took guts of him, and that was like the first politician since Nick Clegg to apologise. So he also has some good conservative things in Russia, so if you're really into that, then I do recommend you follow him. I've had a few people requesting this video, so if you are interested, you can check out him if you don't already know. What's going on with US military action and other action from other countries? Well, currently, if they engage in any way, really, as Russia stated, but they have already engaged, they're sending aid and everything, so I don't know why Russia's just not saying, don't send aid or we will bomb you, because then no one would send aid. But yeah, if the US go militarily, that would start World War III, and there's nuclear things, so that wouldn't be very good, since, in theory, everyone in the world could pass away. I know it's a very negative thing to say, some people are always whinging when people say it, but it is the truth. We need to accept that. Probably won't happen, could happen. So yeah, no action. They could do a full-scale deployment, but that would be pretty bad. Some people, like Mitt Romney, have called President Biden to do a full-scale deployment, but now he's kind of doing... One aspect of his presidency he's doing a good thing by being sleepy, is that by not engaging, but who knows, he's a mad, senile man, so when he wakes up and has a nightmare, he may decide to press the big red button, or something similar. We also don't know what's going on. The West isn't that clean, there's corruption going on, and people are even saying that Ukraine is corrupt, especially conservative people who are looking at the facts, and it seems, yeah, well, they're not all saints, there is corruption going on with citizens, and there's corruption also at the government level, of course, and there could be some other things we don't know. Of course, we don't know even like 5% of what is going on. We know not much at all. Another thing, I have seen so many people on Instagram post, there's so many of my aviation friends I'm following, like there were over 30 people I messaged about it, and I had to explain to each of them, there are donation scams going on. Alright, I just tried checking for the screenshots and stuff I had, but I've got so many, so I will add that in editing. But yeah, they're saying that there's donations and you can donate, and if you post it to your story, they will donate 1 cent or whatever. That is a scam. Instagram took down the old account even, in fact. People are calling out it's a scam. Some people are starting to waken up. The most, like, 20 top rated or hearted comments are saying it is a scam, which it is. Even in some of the description, it says that you need to be following this such and such account, and this account, and this account, and their account for your donation to go through. So if you donate $5,000 and you aren't following any of the accounts, according to that, your donation will not go through, which is a scam. And they've also tried to verify it, which is very funny. So they made another account, or they obtained or used another account, or another account has stated that, yes, the donation is going through to us from this company. That is not evidence. If I make another account called, I don't know, Save the Houses from Destruction, for example. I know it's a really bad example. And then I say I'm supporting Save the Houses for Destruction, donate to them. And then I go onto the account called Save the Houses and just write, oh yeah, Aviation is donating all 100% funds to me. Well, that doesn't prove anything. And there's also been no evidence at all of them donating anything. No pictures, nothing, not even like the stock footage of some poor person. They really aren't even trying, and people have called them out and haven't responded for that. And even the trees and everything they say, it's just all scams. And so if you do want to donate, well, I'm thinking of setting up a fundraiser, so you can DM me for that. And then obviously, if you know family around the place, they can donate, or you can give them things to donate. Like I've got family in neighbouring Slovakia, so they just took carfuls and carfuls of clothes and everything, and they went out and bought so many things for them. And yeah, that's what you can do, because they literally went to where the refugees were going through. They could see them with their own eyes. They were actually there. They weren't scammers. Some of them were homeless or without food or starving or like fainting and passing over. And then you directly hand them the food and you can watch them eat it. I know, it's magic. Instead of it going to a scam or 80% of it going to some CEO at a company, if you know people, you can actually do that. And yeah, feel free to DM me if you want to do that. I may set that up. I've already donated some things as well, but if you just want to, then maybe we could set something up perhaps if people are willing to do that, since of course my family is going to donate more and they'd be willing to pass on donations as well, I assume. And the very sad thing is it's become a trend. Everyone on Instagram was saying hashtag save Ukraine and things like that. I even asked someone why they posted it, and the literal response was, quote, gotta keep up with trends. So yeah, it's a shame it's such a trend just for people to do pray for Ukraine or hashtag for Ukraine. That doesn't help, that doesn't do anything, that just irritates people. I haven't posted anything in Ukraine so far because I knew from the very first day there'd be a vacuum. Like with Israel, it was a trend at the start, although some stupid people were supporting the Palestinian terrorists from Hamas. And now, well, even when people were posting things about Israel and saving Israel and Palestine, that was not even the peak of it all. It got worse after that, and no one posted anything. Like, if you see my 2021 year in review video, there were still bombs being thrown there. You can look at the Israeli Defense Force Instagram or social media, and they update and share all the things there. Of course, it's slightly skewed pro-Israel, but yeah, Israel are really the good guys there. So, yeah, people aren't caring about it anymore, which they won't do. That's why I've just stopped it. I didn't do anything at the start, really, and now that's why I'm posting this, and I'm posting other things, just to remind people that even on the news it was first, and then it went to footy being first, and sport being first, and this, and now it's like 10th. But then, of course, what we're reading in the news is Western propaganda. It is pro-West, ultimately. It may not be exaggerated. It probably is exaggerated. And there's a few things that don't really match up with it, as you've probably seen. But yeah, governments have been adding sanctions. Boris Johnson especially has been very pro-Ukraine. Apparently he's got the highest approval rating in Ukraine of any worldwide leader except Volodymyr Zelensky. And probably to save his career after the partying, you know. He's done tons of things like sanctions, and they were the first to do sanctions, and they did the biggest sanctions, and all things like that. And then they're also doing things to assist with the cost of living crisis. But I suppose giving someone a £20 tax break per month doesn't really save them that much. Nice try, Rishi Sunak. Some of the things that people have said, though, some people are saying they're all actors in Ukraine, which obviously they're not. But there's a few things like their tanks. The Russian tanks had no fuel. I don't really know. I think people aren't that dumb to drive with no fuel. I'm not saying that it's like a movie or actors or something, but that just doesn't really add up at all. It just doesn't really make fully sense at all. And of course, the government knew for years and years. They know about everything in advance. If you want to know something, well, in Australia here at least, well, first of all, moving on to like the China-Taiwan situation, there is proof, and even CNN and all the liberal news channels stated, that Russia and China were talking about the invasion. They knew about it beforehand, and China asked Russia to do it after the Winter Olympics to make it look good, which they did do, and they're offering them aid to, China's offering aid to Russia, and they'll probably be giving equipment and exports, and Russia will be importing things if they need, China will be importing stuff if they need to, and sending it to Russia. Of course they will be doing that. As Ben Shapiro has stated, the week left is what he said. First of all, it was Afghanistan, now it's Russia, soon it will be Taiwan. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull increased defence spending rapidly. I remember as a kid in the 2016 election ads, it was all tanks and battleships all the time. And then Prime Minister Scott Morrison, the current Prime Minister, is increasing defence funding in the long term, and they're doing a base here in my city of Perth, a huge base. They're spending $40 billion on it. And then there's, of course, the AUKUS treaty / negotiations between Australia, the UK, and the US. So they know about it, they've known about it, and they know everything. Their governments really. Unfortunately, so many people are being displaced and having to seek refuge in other countries. Apparently, half of the children, so 3 million children, have now fled. Aid is trickling in, which is good, as I stated. Even when my family were giving out things to the refugees, they said there were lots of people helping, fortunately. But unfortunately, there were lots of refugees, of course. Europe is being over-flooded. They're bringing COVID, they're bringing disease and everything. It's full everywhere. Even my family in Slovakia said, because they're very close to the border, they are about 80 kilometers away from some places in Ukraine that are being bombed. It's full everywhere. Schools, school gyms, school cafeterias, everything. They're housing refugees. So even schools aren't functioning properly there. But people have been helpful, and of course, people aren't videoing it to post on it social media about how good they are. I've seen someone giving someone a packet of bread and then videoing it to show how good they are and asking them how nice am I. That is just really cruel and just wrong. So I don't know why people support people like that. They should just unfollow and boycott the person. But yeah, the refugees who are going in are real. There's, a lot of people have finally realised that some of the refugees in the past few years who are going across into Europe weren't real. These ones here aren't using the brand new gold iPhone and Rolex to navigate via GPS. They have no phone, no technology, they're not doing crime, they're not refusing food. Some refugees before were filmed chucking away food. And many countries have sanctioned Russia, and Russia has also sanctioned many people and individuals, including Joe Biden Sr., which is Joe Biden's father, who has been long dead, so that's not really effective, but I'm sure that they corrected that. Basically, every single airline has stopped flying to Moscow. If we take a look at Flight Radar 24 now, we can see around Ukraine that there is no air traffic at all, and Russia has very minimal air traffic. Of course, Air China is still flying over Russia, and there's a few other airlines as well. Basically, Aeroflot and all Russian airlines, and it doesn't look like there's any... And I got an advert, of course. If we zoom in and it loads a bit more, loads more airlines. It doesn't look like there's any Western airlines here at all. The closest thing would probably be, all these things, Tashkent to London and all those things, but there's no big Western airlines flying around the area. So are the sanctions going to be effective? Well, not really. They've got ways around it, as we've already highlighted it, and some things like Justin Trudeau trying to highlight how good he is, while he banned exports to Russia on products they're not even exporting, and he banned imports from Russia they're not even importing. So that's very ineffective. Let's ban something that we don't manufacture. There's many opinions going on, and there has actually, even though it's not so widespread in the news, been some proof of Biden or Democrat corruption. There's been proof that Biden's son has actually worked with Ukraine, and there's probably money for arms, and then start the war, and then stop to capitalise on it, and things like that. And Hillary Clinton has been caught working with with Russia in the 2016 election against Trump. So there's a few different conflicts in there. So it's really hard to tell if Russia is bad or good. Well, obviously they're not good, but how bad they are, because there have been reports that Ukraine were killing so many people in separatist regions near the Russian border for about 8 years, and Russia told them to stop, and now they're moving in. Or maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I believe to some degree, but it's not as bad as I'd say probably. And if it's true, there's still censorship going on in Russia, but it's basically true. If there's no NATO conflict, there'd be no war. That's fair enough, and they're talking about withdrawing and peace talks, but what's the point if they went in then, if they're just going to go out unless they have something to gain from it? But Zelensky appears to care a lot about Ukraine, even if he is corrupt. Funny how just last Christmas was 40 years since the Soviet Union collapsed after Ronald Reagan and George Bush removed it, and now it's like all that work is gone due to all our weak leadership. Everything is just happening though because Joe Biden got elected, and you have to admit that there was Afghanistan and all those things, and even North Korea. They have fired the first nuclear missile, and it's apparently the most deadly, dangerous ever since 2017. What happened in 2017? Trump went into office, and they ordered all those peace talks. They stopped. They signed agreements. Now they're just invalidating the agreement since they know there'll be no things that are going on. There'll be no repercussions for their actions. Now, even Russia is saying that if Ukrainians do things or you give aid or things like that, they will probably nuke them as well. So that could be very interesting. People said Russia can never win a nuclear war. Yeah, but the whole world could just be basically gone, so nobody wins at all in a nuclear war. And the Z on tanks, we don't really know what they mean. Apparently it's just some famous movie or actor from Russia. It's a nationalistic sign of pride. We don't know if they're doing the Soviet Union, but they better stop at the end of NATO, otherwise there'll be World War III guaranteed. Putin can just be doing this for his ego. Some people are saying maybe he has cancer or things like that, but there's nothing at all to say that. But I have to say, I do agree that with Trump, everything went so well and it wouldn't happen. Even in the last presidential debate, there was no talk of foreign policy at all, and Trump was criticising them for doing that. But well, when Trump was in office, you didn't think, oh, Russia could invade, oh, China could invade, oh, Afghanistan could take over and all those things. You just don't think, but when it doesn't happen, you don't appreciate it. And under Biden, Obama, and I believe Clinton as well, they all expanded area. They went into Crimea and all that, Russia, which didn't happen under Trump at all. And it's actually true what many people are saying. I actually had to check that, but no war started under Trump. And the ongoing wars, he withdrew safely from Obama's surge in him. So he did do a good job, and he's like the only modern president to do that. But then there's the other side of Russia as well. They're doing censorship, news reporters attacking, well, they let one free, who was criticising them, but that's probably publicity. And then even Facebook was saying that you can leave comments to kill Russia, which is very strange. You can't even say one bad thing about minorities, or there's all LGBTQ issues, but you can say you want to kill Russians now, and even not all Russians are good. Some have left the country or condoning it or fighting against Russia and all those things, and some people have left decades ago to other countries, so obviously not all of them are bad. Another thing that could work is if Putin is assassinated, but he's using doubles frequently, and that may not work. And they're also saying that there's concentration camps for Ukrainians now, which I'm not too sure about. Funny how all the COVID-19 people who were talking about, we don't want to go into lockdown, and then all of a sudden the Ukrainians who need to do things to stick up for their countries, like hide and all that, and they are basically in lockdown, some of them 4 months without food, underground, hiding there. They're not talking about their rights, or they want to go up, or it's not for their safety, they're listening. Funny how no anti-maskers or anti-vaxxers are saying that they want to stay on their 20th floor apartment and all those things. The only people who are doing that are people with nowhere else to go, and old and disabled people who have no other way of getting anywhere. But yeah, it seems like Zelensky flip-flopping with NATO over the years and all those other things have just pushed them over the edge and has made them do this to try to stop it. So hopefully it can be resolved, and obviously respects to all those who have died and displaced and everything. And yeah, like I said, if there's anything to help, if anyone needs any help, you can feel free to message me, obviously. But that is the end of today's video. Obviously, we hope everything will go as smoothly as possible. Obviously, things are going to get worse or remain being bad, but we hope that everything can get better as soon as possible. No one really wants us to drag on. Well, no good person would want us to drag on. So, anyways, that's the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm not even going to... Normally, I just say subscribe if you want to. I'm not even going to do it for today's video. Just, it's not really of appropriate nature to do that. Well, I've already mentioned that to all Ukrainians and Russians and other people who are being affected by that. So, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, have a fantastic day, and I really do hope to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.